Hello again, everyone, and thank you for joining me. Today's video is going to be about this album, my love and appreciation for George Harrison's 1979 album, George Harrison. Um, I'm going to give you a little backstory about when I got it, I guess you could say, and I'm going to run through some of the songs and what they mean to me, and a lot of backstory. If you had seen, if you had seen my US albums or US LP, US vinyl albums collection video previously, you know that if you waited to the very end, you would see me like this and telling you that this was the very first album that I ever bought. Um, and it was the very, let's say, yes, it was the very first album I had bought with my own money because I had cobbled together lawn mowing money. Yes, I mowed yards when I was that young. Um, Shoveling snow, which that does a lot here where I live, and I was given a $1 a week allowance. So when I was able to get enough money, I purchased this album. This album came out in February of 1979, and I probably got it somewhere in the summer when I finally was able to get it. And I remember going in. We would go into the record store. I guess you could say it was a record store. It was kind of a general. I don't know what you want to say, a family general store, similar to what Walmart or Target or Costco or whatever else there are. Um, so we would go out there, and I would have this album was there, and I was always afraid that it wasn't going to be there when I went to get it. But when I did go get it, it was there. So I couldn't wait to get home. Short ride seemed very long, but when I got there, I ripped open the plastic. Unfortunately, I didn't keep it on there, so George's face is somewhat weathered, but not too bad. And I pulled out the album, and I knew I was going to be in heaven because I had, of course, heard um, Blow Away, which I'll talk about later, on the Big 89 WLS Chicago. And who didn't love old Uncle Lair? Um, Back to the album anyway. Uh, so I knew I was ready to be in for an awesome experience. Now you got to remember that when I got this album, I was 8 years old. And when I was 8 years old, I was a very nervous kid. I was a shy kid. Some people might think I'm still shy now, but I don't think I was. Definitely, if I could go back to when I was then, I was a shy, nervous kid. Um, so this album meant a lot to me. When it comes to the album itself, we start off with Love Comes to Everyone. And you got to remember when I had this album, the only one that I knew that was on the album was him. I didn't know who anybody else was. Later on, when you do research or you hear, when you hear songs that come out later, you're thinking, oh, that sounds kind of like the guitar work or the synth work or whatever that was on George Harrison's album. Well, lo and behold, when it comes to Love Comes to Everyone, there's George taking a stroll. I found out that that was Eric Clapton playing lead on there, and it's a very wonderful lead into the album, and it's got great synthesizer, which was done by Steve Winwood. And Steve Winwood, I was not familiar with. I wasn't even really familiar with Eric Clapton. I was a little bit with Clapton, but Steve Winwood, I had no idea who he was until a year later when Ark of a Diver came out. And that's another song I really like. And when I would listen to it, I would think, there's some synthesizer work on George Harrison's album that sounds familiar. Well, lo and behold, it's Steve Winwood. So, great song to start off the album with. Second one on here is of course, Not Guilty. And this was recorded originally for the White Album, but it never made it on the album. I liked this song. If you played albums, you did a lot of jumping around, picking the needle up, moving it here. A lot harder to do now when you can just skip them around. Skip with a CD, or skip with we shuffle around, or skip on your computer or on your iPod if anybody's got those. Your MP3, same thing. Skip around on anything you got. Spotify, Pandora, whatever else, even in your own playlist. Anyway, getting off subject. So you would have to. So if you were able to probably go back and do a groove test on an album, you would see that you didn't really listen to that one. Not Guilty was probably one of those. Now later, when I was at college, I got a bootleg, and Not Guilty was on there. Only it was, and I'm like, hey, that's that I know that song. And of course, I knew it. I think when I saw it on there, if I listened to it, I was like, well, that's different. And then of course, when the anthology came out, it was on there, and it was a lot heavier, which I do like, that heavier, like hard rock sound of the version that should have been on the White Album. That song should have been on the White Album. I could have easily put that in there instead of Long, 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 or given George another song on the album. This particular version on here is a more, I want to say, I guess it's bluesy, kind of an odd bluesy, jazzy, bluesy jazzy blue. Is that something that's real? But anyway, it's really good on here. It kind of fits in with what's going on the album, and that leads to the next song on the album, which is "Here Comes the Moon," and that is probably my second favorite song on the album. Uh, it's an obvious sequel to "Here Comes the Sun." I would assume it's an obvious sequel. Maybe "Here Comes the Moon" was written before "Here Comes the Sun," because the moon was no. So, but I always consider this a night. "Here Comes the Moon" as being a nice sitting outside evening song, enjoying a cocktail or two. It's very, very smooth and calming song, and I've it's always been one of my favorites. I love to hear it when it comes on, especially when I have my George playlist on. It's a really, really good song. So that leads to "Soft Hearted Hannah," and I just recently read that it was a mushroom inspired song, and that makes sense when you listen to it. It's a good drinking song to me, and George's dobro on it is awesome, and I love the dobro. If you don't know what a dobro is, look it up. It's guitar. Uh, and of course, that leads to the last song on the album, and my favorite song on the album. My Probably one of my favorite songs of George's, of all of his songs, Beatles, all the way through to the end of his life. It was a song when, like I said earlier, I was a nervous kid. I was always uptight for an 8-year-old, and this song always made me calm down. It always made me feel warm. It always made me feel, I don't know if I want to say loved, but it just felt good when I heard the song. It was calming. It was relaxing. It always felt like the better days were ahead, even in the dead of winter, which it is now. So even now, the song I love to hear it because it makes me think of the days that are going to come up, and it's going to be warm and calm and relaxed, and we're going to enjoy everything. So this song on this album, "Blow Away," is my favorite song, of course, and it is a very special song to me, and I'm very happy that George wrote and recorded the song. I know I probably like this song much more than a lot of people do, but it is a special song to me. So on side two is Faster, which I'm a racing fan. When I was younger, it was always Indy. Whether it was Ari Lyondike, it was Emerson Fittipaldi, it was AJ Foyt, it was uh, I know I'm forgetting more people. Danny Sullivan in there, Roberto Guerrero, I think. Yes, yes, I'm pretty sure. If I'm not, you'll let me know. And then mainly just the Indy race. Of course, when back then you couldn't watch it on TV, you had to listen to it. And then I became a NASCAR fan, which I am still now. Not as much as I was, but I still am a NASCAR fan. So Faster is probably maybe third or fourth favorite song, and it's a special song, and I've always enjoyed the overall feel and the sound effects, uh, and the lyrics. Uh, really good song. That leads us to, I guess, yeah, I did Faster. So Dark Sweet Lady. Um, this is keeping with the tradition of the album, which is small, soft, smooth, calm, relaxing, island feel. I think that's, if I haven't mentioned it, that's what's really good about the album. It feels like this is actually an album you would take to a deserted island because it would fit in with the deserted island sound or the island sound. Um, this was another song I probably skipped when I was a kid, but I've really grown to really enjoy listening to this song, and it's very special for his new bride, Olivia, at the time. Uh, Your Love Is Forever is the next song, so that would be song 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of 10. Um, when I originally got to remember, I was a nervous kid. When I originally used to listen to the song, I used to skip this one because it made me sad. I don't know why to this day, because it doesn't make me sad now. And I did read later that I wonder why it made me sad. It's not really a sad song, but I did read later that George considered this song to be on par with Something. I don't know about that because Something is probably my favorite George Harrison song, or it probably is my favorite, or is my favorite. So, but it is a very good song, and it fits in so nicely with this album. The ninth song is Soft Touch. Another song, another good song, fits in with the album. This album's theme is very well executed as a as a as an island album, in my opinion. Others may not think so. And that leads us to the final song, which is "If You Believe." It's classic George sound. Perfect way to end the album. For a long time, I believed that Jeff Lynne was on this album. And of course, I had no real way of knowing. Somewhere along the line, I had lost probably the inner. I'm sure there was an inner liner. I was bad at maintaining the integrity of those. So it may have told me who was on the album. I don't know. But for a long time, I thought it was Jeff Lynne, especially when, oddly enough, I heard ELO's Calling America, of all songs from ELO, even though I knew Telephone Line and I knew other ELO songs, but it always sounded like he was on there. But he wasn't, never to be found. Uh, but it must show that they were kindred spirits because, voila, just a few years later, they were working together on George's Cloud Nine album. And one thing about this song is just the whole point of believing, because believe is such an important and positive word. I get the same feeling out of this song as I do Blow Away. So maybe you throw this up there as one of my top ones. So overall, once again, this is one of the best albums that I've ever had. It's probably up there for George Harrison. It's one of the best solo albums by any of the Beatles, in my opinion, and may not be the best George Harrison album. Uh, The best album probably is All Things Must Pass. And probably my third favorite is actually his final album, which is, uh, I can't think of it. It's final album. Huh, why can't I think of it? Oh, it's back here. Brainwashed. That's not good. Anyway, so once again, a wonderful album. And if you haven't listened to it, I'm sure you have. If you haven't listened to it, it's an album that you will listen to and you will not skip anything because it is a beautiful, wonderfully executed album. So thank you for watching this video. And if you like this video, please give it a like. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. If you haven't seen any of my other Beatle videos or any of my other videos on this channel, please consider looking at those. It would be much appreciated. So until next time,